Today we're going to be talking about how to structure your real estate portfolio in Fortaleza in order to reduce your tax load. Hello there, my name is Luciano Oliveira. I am a Brazilian attorney. I'm here in Fortaleza, Ceará, and today we're going to be talking about how to structure your real estate portfolio in Fortaleza in order to reduce your tax load. Important to note that we are talking specifically about real estate portfolio. This particular strategy is not ideal if you just have one of two properties, because in our strategy you need to form a business entity to own the portfolio. However, by setting up an entity in Brazil, you create another layer of complexity. You're gonna need to maintain this business entity, you're gonna need to pay an accountant, and different than the US, for instance, where you just file taxes once a year, you're gonna be paying a CPA once a year. In Brazil, if you have a business entity, you're gonna need to pay an accountant every single month, in addition to the fee for the tax filing. So just like everything else in Brazil, there is a lot of red tape, bureaucracy, and complexity in terms of the rules. So just for one of two properties, in our experience, the costs and the time you're gonna need to spend on forming the entity, on following up the entity, on paying people to handle those entities for you, it's not gonna be worth. But if you have a portfolio, like some of our clients, they have apartments, they have land, they have over 20 properties in Ceará, so in that case it makes total sense to form a business entity in Brazil. Just an example of a tax advantage: when you sell real estate property and your company was set up as an entity with this objective of buying and selling properties, you're not gonna be paying the tax on the transfer of the property. In other words, you're not gonna be paying the same taxes that a regular individual buyer would pay, because it's the nature of your business to buy and sell properties. You will still pay a lot of taxes, but you're gonna pay less taxes than individual buyers do. Another main advantage is, instead of selling the individual properties, you could be selling stock or shares in the company. Particularly when you have a dual layer business entity. For instance, you have a local business in Brazil and you have another business abroad in your native country. You could even be selling the shares in your native country business entity to friends or other business partners. And this way is like you are selling the properties, but you don't need to go through all the trouble that selling an individual property in Brazil would require, because you're just selling the shares abroad. This kind of approach is also done for really high value properties. For instance, a property for $3 million. The same strategy is also valid if the property is worth a lot. Let's say if the buyer is buying a penthouse for $3 million. Because it's such an expensive property, it may be worth to set up a business entity to own the penthouse, even if it is just a single property. The advantage of that is that if the seller wants to sell, instead of selling the property itself, the seller could basically sell the shares of the seller within the business entity. That makes much easier, because to sell the shares, it's substantially easier than actually sell the property itself, which would require closing paperwork and even attorney support. And if you're just selling the shares either in Brazil or in your native country, if you're doing the dual business entity approach, it's substantially easier to sell this property. I hope you liked this video. If you have questions about the subject, feel free to ask in the comments and follow us for more tips.